Okay, here we go. Feels like we just signed off a few hours ago, and we are live. This is Real Talk with Mary Grace. It's Thursday, the 23rd of September, 2021, and we've got another good show lined up today. So come on in. Welcome to the show. I'm Mary Grace, and this is my channel. You can watch me on Facebook, YouTube, CloudHub, and somewhere over on Twitter. uh, so Facebook, YouTube, CloudHub, Mary Grace Media. I'm on CloudHub channel 111, channel 111. And so make sure you're following my channels. Make sure you like the show and follow the channel and subscribe wherever you are. If you're on Facebook, please tag your friends and put this show into groups that you belong to. Just copy the link and then share it into groups if you're allowed to do that. That helps us get the word out. And just a reminder as we're talking, please do not put links in the chat on either Facebook or YouTube. If you have a link, break it up by typing out the .com. So Mary Grace Media space DOT space COM. That keeps us from getting censored. These platforms don't like when we share external links because they want all the attention to themselves. Okay, so that's the housekeeping for today. I hope everybody's having a good day. If you missed yesterday's show, please make sure you watch it and share it. We basically did sort of a workshop session on helping people navigate the current medical climate and helping people gather the tools and information they need to remain healthy, to stay out of hospitals, and to get the best care that they need. Hi, Linda. Okay, so please make sure you watch the show from yesterday. It's on all these platforms, and you're not going to want to miss it. There's just a ton of resources. Make sure you go back into the live chat comments on the YouTube and the Facebook. That is where a lot of people were sharing information. It's not the same as on YouTube. It's not the same as the comment section that you see under the show. You have to click on live chat when you go back to watch the replay. And that's where you're going to see a ton of stuff. And just FYI, the live chat scrolls in accordance with where you are in the show on YouTube. And so if you want to fast forward through the live chat, you just fast forward on the show. Okay, that's how that works. If you don't want to necessarily listen to the whole show, but I recommend you listen to the whole show because there was so much valuable content. I was on air for about an hour and a half, a little more than an hour and a half, and it was just really good. So I have an update. Yesterday, I had a request, a prayer request. We have a family in Arizona who are really fighting for the life of the husband and father. This is a family who the husband went into the hospital 21 days ago. He was having complications from diabetes. He had to go on a vent, and long story short, he tested positive for COVID and he has COVID in his lungs. He's been on a vent for 21 days. So his wife, his name is Matt, his wife Shannon, has not been given access to him at all. He is alone in the ICU with no contact with outside family or friends. And so we are working on getting her in there to see him, her and her daughter and their daughter, Emily. And any resources that you have available to us, please email me info@marygracemedia.com or tag me in my Telegram chat, at Mary Grace Media Official. Please make sure that you contact me, though, if you have access to a human rights attorney, a right to life attorney, somebody of that nature that can help get past these gatekeepers who are refusing entry. Last night, they refused entry of the pastors. Hold on, guys. I'm getting a call, and this may be relevant to the case. Just hold on. I'm going to mute. So, right. So, Arizona Department of Health, you're saying we file a complaint, but what happens when we do that?
Rises to the level of a criminal investigation, certainly they will reach out. Certainly, it's not the first time that they've reached out to various agencies to provide a criminal investigation, but they're in a position to certainly here, and I could certainly go through over. I went online.
So the reason I'm asking this is because we have an urgent life or death situation, and so
Dial 911 then. That's all I have. I don't have another remedy for you. If they're in the Phoenix area, they could certainly dial 911 and discuss options with law enforcement when they show up on scene.
Okay.
I don't have another remedy for you.
No, I understand. Is there any way? There's no way that you refer to attorneys in the area that can help with this? Human rights attorneys? I mean, you're the Attorney General's office, so if the
Correct. And we
Attorney General,
represent the state of Arizona.
I understand this is in the state of Arizona. So if the Attorney General's office is not there to fight for the rights of the citizens of Arizona, where do we turn? I mean, are you in touch with attorneys that can help this family get access to their loved one and advocate for him? How does this work?
Ma'am, I don't have an answer for you. I know you're seeking immediate help, but I don't
Yeah.
have an answer for you.
Okay, all right. Could you
Let
give
me give
me?
you the number to let me give you the number to the Arizona Department of
Sure.
Health Services, and you could certainly discuss this further with them. I'll
Okay,
give you an
thank
actual
you.
telephone number.
Thank
The
you.
telephone number to Department of Health Services is 602
Yep.
364 2536.
Is there an extension we need to dial?
No, I don't have an extension. That's just directly into the Phoenix main office.
Okay, thank you so much for calling. I appreciate you returning my call.
Certainly. Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay. The wheels of bureaucracy came to a halt there. So we'll move on to the next steps. Now, I just thought I would go live with that. Yeah, so that was the Attorney General's office. That is the Office of Victim Services. And I left them a message last night. Okay, so there we are with that. Again, if anybody has an attorney, a human rights attorney that is available in that area, please let us know, because we want to get something done. We need somebody to go before a judge to grant access to do an emergency order to get this wife to be at her husband's bedside. As I was talking about before I got the call yesterday, and for those of you who are just coming in, we're dealing with a situation where the husband has been in the hospital on a vent for 21 days. No one from outside is allowed access to him. Even the pastors who went yesterday to do a wellness check and to pray for him um, they were not given access. And so this is where we are with this. They they were actually they were actually pushed out. They weren't going to be allowed in the hospital. They finally got to go into the hospital in the chapel, but that's as far as they got. Uh, Pacific Justice Institute. Okay, yeah. So, as I mentioned, this is a life or death situation. Now, I don't know about calling 911. I mean, I don't know. You think Thomas Rentz could get us a local attorney? Okay, I know. Ann knows him, so I'll see if she can get me in touch with him. Uh, so that's where we are. I do have a message. I've talked to one local attorney who wasn't able to help, but who is hopefully going to get us some referrals. This particular attorney had some conflicts of interest, so could not help us. Chris Ann Hall, I don't know who that is. I know the name, but I'm not sure. I believe somebody mentioned Senator Kelly Townsend, and I believe the family is reaching out to Senator Kelly Townsend. We're crowdsourcing this, as you might have already figured out. And we know, yeah, we know the hospital, Carrie. The hospital, it's Honor Health Systems, and it's at John C. Lincoln Hospital, John C. Lincoln. Now, the interesting thing about the Honor Health system is that if you look at their patient bill of rights, it says right there that it says right there that the patient has a right to visitors, and it doesn't say anywhere on there that that those rights are suspended in a time of emergency, just like the Constitution. The Constitution isn't suspended for a pandemic. Uh, yeah, lack of Honor Health, exactly. Chris Ann is a constitutional attorney. Does anyone have her contact information that can get directly to her? We would appreciate the help. So that's where we are with this situation. Please pray for him. Um, he really just needs to have the presence of the heavenly host around him so that he has the peace of God, and that he is able to hang on, and that he knows not to let go. Um, I think his wife is able to call him at night and read the Bible to him and pray over him, but we know that there's no substitute for human contact, for having your family member there with you in the room to advocate for you. And his wife is just recovering from his wife is no longer his wife is recovering from COVID. So she's actually on oxygen. She needs our prayers too, so that she can be restored to 100% health. Marvin is saying that 911 won't help. The cops will say that it's a civil matter. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So pray for Shannon. She needs courage to be able to stand up and assert their rights. She's getting a little bit stronger in that area. Uh, what about Lynn? Yeah, we could ask. Yeah, we could ask Lynn if he would do that. He wasn't Veronica's attorney, but that's not a bad idea. So we should get a group and go and pray over the hospital. By all means, please do that. Please do that. Um, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's crazy. The when somebody has C. diff, I've talked about this for almost 2 years now. If somebody has C. diff, which happened to my mom when she was in a rehab facility, that is unbelievably contagious, like scary contagious, and it's a bacteria, and it is it's really contagious, and the the protocol for that is that visitors have to put on PPE, gown, gloves, I think a mask or a shield. And then they have to discard it at the door of the room before they leave the room. So even if you're in the room, you have to go out to go to the bathroom and you come back. You take off all the PPE, you discard it, then you start over before you go back into the room. It's sitting on a little tray outside the room. And that is the protocol. That's what it was when I went to see my mom. So every time I went to see her, we would have to wear that. And so they've abandoned all of that. everything that used to be just normal protocol to protect patients and staff and visitors has been completely destroyed because COVID. The same thing with the rights of the disabled, their rights and children, the most vulnerable in our society, who we are supposed to be protecting because of COVID, are being completely destroyed. Their rights have been completely flushed down the toilet. The patient bill of rights is no longer relevant because of COVID. It's insane. And I know situations where family members have been able to get to their loved ones through the legal avenue. Now, calling the hospital continually, that may be that may be um, a possibility. Let me think about that. Now, um, one of the good things is that the doctor seems to be kind of responsive. And Shannon called the doctor. She called yesterday and asked for the charge nurse. I told her to do that. That got their attention because she went from just sort of waiting for the doctor to call her to calling and taking charge and saying, I want to talk to the charge nurse. Well, they got back to her within a few minutes. So that's good. That means that we have their attention. But the doctor was willing to start adding vitamins to his feeding protocol because he's on a feeding tube, and the doctor was not willing to do ivermectin or budesonide. He said when she asked for budesonide, the doctor said, "Well, he's on albuterol." Um, and then how did it go? Oh, when she asked for budesonide, the um, the doctor said, "Well, that's a steroid." And then she said, "Well, he's on albuterol. Isn't that a steroid too?" And so this is what we're dealing with, right? And so the doctor's going, let me think about it. These people, one of the things that's happened in healthcare is that one of the things that's happened in healthcare is that it's no longer about the doctor using their knowledge and intuition. Everything is just coded. It's all computerized. And so when a patient presents with symptoms, the doctors go to the computer and they plug in the symptoms, and then they're just given the response. I mean, it's like okay, albuterol is not a steroid. Okay, I was wondering about that. Okay. Um but the point is that these doctors, they're not thinking, they're not problem solving, they're not looking at the patient as an individual. They're not considering anything outside of what pops up on the screen. And that's a big problem, because they're like robots. They are not thinking outside the box. And this is something that Dr. McCullough has talked about, that he's appalled because he was talking about the fact that there's no curiosity, that the pandemic, that COVID has been treated differently from any other health crisis in history. That in the past, doctors would be trying anything. They were always going um, uh, off patent, outside of the intended use for drugs, and they were always exploring options that would allow them to crack the case. Because in an emergency, in a medical or health emergency, worldwide, a pandemic or something like that, you don't have the luxury of waiting on clinical trials to see if a certain medication helps. I mean, people are dying. And he's talked about this. He said, I never in my life would I have expected to see what I've seen in the medical community, where the curiosity just completely died. That there were a handful of doctors that were trying everything and anything. Outside of that, they just stuck with the bottom, the parroted line, which is, there's nothing we can do for you. It's just insane. I mean, imagine, this is something Brian Artis was saying. Imagine a parent who has a child who sprains their ankle, and the parent says to the child, "Well, gee, that looks like it hurts. I can see you're in pain. Um, I think we're gonna have to wait a few days, and then when it triples in size, we'll take you to the ER. We might put ice on it." Imagine that. That's what's happened with COVID. There's no curiosity. There's no early intervention. It's literally just go home and wait to die, and then when you're dying, come to the hospital, come to the emergency room. That's what these patients have been told. Now, in this case, with this particular patient, uh, I believe that having diabetes actually saved his life so far because he went in with symptoms having to do with the diabetes. He was in ketoacidosis. And so he went in originally as a diabetes patient. And so they were focused on that. They were focused on getting that under control. And they didn't treat him immediately as a COVID patient. However, they asked him if they could test him for COVID, and he agreed. And then that's when they sent his wife away. So, I mean, it's really one of the most evil things you could imagine. Um, and again, she's recovered from COVID. She's just recovering. Why can't she be there? Okay. Um, Now, uh, the right to try. People are asking about right to try. I was looking at that, and my understanding of right to try is that that gives the patient and the doctor the right to pursue experimental medications, things that haven't even been reviewed by the FDA. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me. I believe, though, I believe that the Patient Bill of Rights actually covers everything that we're talking about because the Patient Bill of Rights grants visitation and it also grants the patient full autonomy over their health care, over their care plan. That right there should be enough if we were dealing with people who weren't insane. But because everybody in the system is now insane, and they're not even thinking like rational human beings, we're having to get creative and push and push and push in ways that 2 years ago you wouldn't have even had to worry about. It really is just crazy. And I'm going to say this right now, and I think most of you have the idea, but please make sure you get the word out. Um, it, it, Avoid hospitals at all costs. If you have a dire situation that you absolutely know you need, trauma intervention for, like a car accident, go to the hospital. If at all possible, again, this is what I would do with my family. If I needed to see somebody urgently, I would go to an urgent care facility. They can't admit you to anything. They can tell you that they can't help you, but they can't take your loved one away and admit them, as far as I know. Now, if anybody has heard of a situation of medical kidnapping at one of those facilities, please let me know. Because what we're seeing right now in this situation is medical kidnapping. And I have to tell you, it was just over a year ago that I took my mom to a local hospital, and they were so nasty to us in the waiting room that I left. And I'm so thankful that I didn't just leave her in the waiting room because I probably would have lost her to the system from that point on. And the hospital that I did take her to allowed me to be with her, which I want to give a shout out to the University of Virginia Medical Center because they actually did the right thing and they allowed her family to see her throughout the process. Now, The Odyssey, here's a comment on Facebook. The Odyssey video with FLCCC doctor said that as long as doctors document everything, they would probably not get in trouble for going off protocol. Can the family sign something that would take away the risk to the hospital? Julia, that's a good point. That's something that I would bring up. I'll bring that up too with the family. The thing is, right now, we really want to get the wife, the family, to be in there with him. Um, so Diane on YouTube is saying steroids make the blood sugar go up a little, but sometimes still appropriate for diabetics. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I know that steroids can wreak havoc with blood sugar. Um, but right now, I mean, it's like a trade-off, right? I mean, this is life or death. So do you try the steroids? Do you give him a dose of budesonide and see if that helps? Or do you just let him sit there and languish? This is the point I think we're at. They did find another infection in his lungs. Surprise, he's just sitting there languishing. Um, but they've put him on 2 new antibiotics, and so, they think that it's gonna help in the next 24 hours. But here's the thing that I am really curious about. Now, they took, his, they did a bronchoscopy, and they took a sample, a tissue sample, to test him for COVID, and he was positive. This was the second test. This was done day before yesterday. And of course, it came back positive. And so here's what I want to know. If he had COVID, COVID settles in the lungs. And if they do a bronchoscopy and they collect tissue from the lungs, it's going to have COVID, right? And if he's not aspirating, it could be there for a very long time because it's a SARS virus. And we know that if they're running the test at high cycles, at a high threshold, he could be positive for a year if they're taking tissue from the lungs. So she did ask the doctor to do another test with a nasal swab and see what's going on there. Does that make sense? Anybody, any medical people here? Wouldn't it make sense that he would just still have COVID deep in the lungs? I probably have COVID in my lungs. If you want to run the cycle at 45, you want to run the threshold at 45 cycles, we probably all do, because years ago, I had a cold or I had bronchitis. So this is just crazy. Yeah. Um, the thing that's the bottom line is here that the the thing that's the bottom line here is that these hospitals don't want families to see what they're doing. And I think that, they get so deep into the weeds that the more critical the patient gets, the less they want the family up there. I mean, it's like it's ideal for hospitals who are acting less than ethically, because no one's going to see it. And nobody wants to blow the whistle because they don't want to lose their job. I mean, it's a bad situation. Linda cut her hand, definitely needed stitches. She's caring for it herself. Yeah. Linda, did you put a butterfly on it at least? I hope. Keep it clean. That's the key. All right. I wonder how much hospitals get paid to kidnap the loved ones. Everything comes down to money. Yeah, exactly. Now, here's the thing. Thank you, Delia, for emailing the attorney. Here's the thing that I also wanted to point out. When you go, if you think that you have a respiratory illness, by all means, if you think you need medication, you think you need a prescription, like I said, I myself would go either to a doctor's office or to an urgent care facility. Ask for a flu test. It's like they forgot they have those. I'm curious to see what they would do if you ask for a flu test. Would they say we don't do that anymore? Would they say, what's that? It's like they completely forgot that we're coming into flu season and that flu exists. Because as you know, there was no flu in 2020. It was all COVID. So I would definitely urge people that if you're going somewhere, uh, to get tested, ask for the flu test. Don't default to the COVID test, right? That wasn't a thing 2 years ago. Um, Diane is saying they're covering his blood sugars with insulin anyway. I hope so. I mean, I would hope they are. You know, I was an advocate for a very good friend who had diabetes. She was blind and she had diabetes, and so I was with her in the hospital. And there were two things that I had to tell the staff repeatedly every time they came in the room. One was she's blind. Two was she has diabetes. She's a brittle diabetic. Please be aware of that on everything, every way you treat her. If I hadn't done that, um, they didn't know. They weren't checking her chart. Seriously, the every shift or every person that came in, when I told them that she had diabetes, they were like, "Oh, okay, thank you for telling me." I'm like, "That's your job. Why do you not know that this patient has diabetes, that they're type 1 diabetes, insulin dependent? How do you not know that?" That was one of the things that really just opened my eyes to the state of hospitals in our country. And my friend died of congestive heart failure. Um, she had a lot of problems from a lot of complications, and you know, it was just a crazy situation, just insane. So I don't trust him. I don't trust any care team to do what's right, because it's like a conveyor belt of whatever you call it, medical something. It's not care. Um, Diane says the inhaler wouldn't make the sugar go up as high as a direct IV. Okay, that's good to know. I'll mention that to the wife. Uh, Whatever the outcome, she should sue the hospital. They understand the language of money. Oh, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Chris Ann Hall is a constitutional attorney. I tried messaging her on Facebook because I can't find the contact info on her website, but one should be there. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, okay. Yeah. I'm reading some of the comments. Dr. Jane Ruby says Cleveland Clinic secretly jabbed a 4-year-old child behind the parents' back against their will. Oh, absolutely. Guys, hospitals check sugar at least every 6 hours, then give the right amount of insulin to cover the sugar level. Diane, I pray that's true. I mean, like I said, that's what should happen. It didn't happen in my friend's case. I had to remind them every time she had diabetes. But let's pray that's the case. Okay. Attorney Ty Tabor, is that who we need to be calling? Okay. Now, all right. I want to talk about a couple of other things. All right, we're crowdsourcing this attorney situation. Hi Vicky, how are you? Good to see you. Okay, Delia has that attorney's information. Thank you. I appreciate it. I will call them as soon as I get off of this call. Now, okay. All right. Let's see. There's something else I wanted to talk about. First of all, how in the world did all those Haitians get to the border? I'm changing subjects here. Haiti is on an island. The United States border is not on that island. So how did they get there? And are they all Haitians? That's the question of the day. Does anybody know? Who's bringing them over there? That's what I want to know. Does anybody know? Okay, Idaho says they left Haiti years ago and were living in Ecuador and Brazil. Maybe most were from South America. Yeah, NGOs. Yeah, the NGOs. Yeah, maybe they're not all Haitians. I mean, from the looks of them, a lot of them were Haitians. Oh, and by the way, just in case you are thinking that scene with the Border Patrol, the fake news, and Kamala sensationalized this story to make it look like the Border Patrol was using whips and lassos on the people who were trying to cross the river. That's a big fat lie. And I saw people that I know who are conservatives who were expressing outrage at that. And so I want to caution people about that, because the thing is that they're not whips. They're not lassos. A lasso doesn't look like that. They wouldn't lasso human beings. They, even if they were whips, they're using those. They were reins. They're reins, okay, and they're using them. Um, the cowboys, Border Patrol, Western riders use the reins to direct and steer the horse. It's a way that they communicate with the horse. So in some of the videos, you see the rider, like, slinging the reins around like this. They weren't doing that to hit a human being. They're doing that to communicate with their horse. These are some of the best riders on the planet. And if you watch the way that they were handling their horses and you watch the movements of the reins, then you'll know that that's what they were doing. They're using their legs, their bodies, and the reins to communicate with the horse. It's some incredibly impressive horsemanship. However, the fake news took that and made it into a fake human rights issue that should never ever have been published. But that's how evil these people are, um, you know, vilifying and calling for an investigation. And how rich is it that Kamala is calling for an investigation? It's like she's in charge. So she literally is calling for an investigation of her job that she's failed at. Um, but I just wanted to make sure that people understand that. Um, and that story is a distraction. But uh, yeah, I just wanted people to understand that is, and most people don't know how, uh, they don't know anything about horsemanship. And so that's an easy story to plant and to hype to create outrage. So be very careful about allowing yourself to go into a place of outrage over something that you don't know about. Um, because that's just, it's like horsemanship 101. And they really use that to manipulate the public. So just be aware of that, okay? Now, um, okay, so wasn't Mad Max calling our BP cowboys? I don't know. I don't know if she was calling them. I haven't heard from her in a while, but um, so the yeah, there's so many things about that. So Delia says they were swinging the reins to keep the people from being hurt by the horses. Well, I would say it's probably the reverse too, to protect the horses, to keep the people from charging at the horses too. So, but I sincerely doubt that that the intention would ever be to use the reins on the people. And what I mean by protecting the horses is that they're creating a shield between the people and the horses. So either way, right? Now, let's talk about distractions, because um, you heard that 2 of the Haitians are suing. Well, yeah, these human rights organizations are the ones that represent the illegal aliens. Yeah, it's just crazy. Um, and the other thing about that situation is, for every picture that you see like that, you don't see the pictures of these same cowboys holding children and rescuing women from traffickers and smugglers. You don't see them, you know, rescuing families who've been left out in the desert to die by coyotes. You don't see what happens to them when they come across the remains of human beings who've been left to die in the desert. This is what they deal with all day long. These are parents. These are fathers and mothers who have children of their own, and they are seeing these heartbreaking situations, and they're dealing with that every day. And they're dealing with these unaccompanied minors. Of course, nobody who is driving the propaganda narrative is showing those pictures because those are just incredible people who are doing what they're doing. Um, Deb on Facebook says cutting horses are expert in what they do. Thank you for that term. I didn't know the terminology, so that's what she's talking about. So the way that those horses are maneuvering like that, like that's their job. It's like a sheepdog, right? They are working animals, and they are trained to do very specifically the kinds of things that those horses are doing, moving back and forth like that. Okay, that's what they do. That's what they live for. All right. Um, so, okay. Now, yeah, the Border Patrol, they pull people out of the river. They save them from drowning all the time, you know? So let's just remember that before we get outraged about something. Now, um, let's go back to distraction, because tomorrow is the day that tomorrow is the day that uh, tomorrow's the day that the audit comes out. Now, I just have an update uh, from Shannon, from Matt's wife at the hospital. So we'll come back to the audits in just a second. Uh, okay, let me just see that. I want to look at this. Okay, so Shannon is going to okay. So Shannon is going to the hospital. She has her game plan mapped out. I'll tell you guys what this is so you can be praying for her. She's on oxygen, right? So she's getting extra oxygen so she can have it with her. She's going to the hospital. A friend of hers is going to drive her. Her daughter's going to stay home. Pray for her daughter. Her daughter has anxiety, so she did not want to be part of any confrontation. Um, so Shannon had a consult with another pulmonologist this morning. So she has good questions to ask the doctor. She's going to ask about the ECMO. So the ECMO machine is something that patients have used to help with their breathing and oxygenation, blood oxygenation. That's something he needs. And so she is, and so what she's going to do is she's going to activate the chain of command. So she's going to start with the charge nurse, and she's going to go up the chain. This is something that we learned from Brian Artis and the patient advocate that he interviewed recently. She's also, her sister is going to be working with the Senator Townsend and the Arizona Department of Health, and she said, we're going to see how this part goes, and if I need an attorney, I will work on that today. So that's the update. And then she also said to let everybody know, she has a friend who's a former pharmaceutical rep. is now working on being a patient advocate, says people with or recovering from COVID can benefit from 50,000 IU of vitamin D per day. 10,000 IU capsules can be purchased. She did this for her own recovery. So that's an update from Arizona in real time. So thank you for your prayers. Let's just keep her covered in prayer as she goes to the hospital. She's not in perfect health. She's on oxygen. So she needs supernatural strength, and pray for her friend that's going to drive her there, that they would that this friend would be ride or die. Okay. Greg is saying ECMO is a last ditch therapy, extremely invasive. Okay, that's good to know. So yeah, she's trying to get him on ivermectin. So let's just see how that goes. Okay. Okay, thank you guys. Now, the audits. So the information, the report from the Maricopa County audit is going to be public tomorrow. This is what we're hearing. And the report is going to be public tomorrow. And so we need to have our heads on a swivel. We need to really be praying and activating the host, because there's the host of heaven. This is something that Kat Kerr teaches about. If you're not watching Elijah streams and learning about that, I definitely recommend it. Kat is on every Wednesday on Elijah streams talking about that. Now, so we want to make sure, I'm reading the comments, sorry. We want to make sure that that everything that is supposed to be revealed is revealed, that we don't have a massive distraction like the situation on the border, or something that might happen overseas, something like that, because the deep state is constantly working on distractions. That's just what they do, because the report, from all accounts, we know that what's coming out of Arizona is enough to decertify the election there. And this is what Wendy Rogers is indicating. This is what President Trump is indicating. And I believe that that's what they're going to show. There was a crazy article going around about a week ago saying that the recommendation was going to be that nothing be done, something like that. That was ludicrous. So I just, I want people to really be praying that not only that the right information would be exposed, but that it would be disseminated um, to the proper channels. Because right now, the news is still a captured operation, and because of that, we can't rely on them to disseminate any of this. Now, one thing that George News did tell us is that Tucker Carlson would be one of the people that would be helping to get this information out. All of the revelations, not just about the audit. Okay, so I think also I have a feeling that uh, Laura Ingraham may be on board as well. And, so pray for these people that they would have the courage. I mean, it's not like they can't afford to lose their job. It's time for these opinion journalists who make millions of dollars, who are set for life, to really step up and to take the risks that all of us are taking. Those of us who have been on the front lines in the digital war, many people have lost livelihoods. People with massive YouTube accounts, massive Twitter accounts, Periscope, those people have put it all on the line repeatedly, and they keep coming back. Like Praying Medic, he had, like 500,000 on Twitter gone in a day. And, and then you've got these people up here at Fox, Hannity, Ingram, Tucker, these people are literally set for life. And, they're up there teasing out content and, you know, just going on back to their mansions at the end of the day and, having these lush lives. And I don't begrudge them that, but it's time to put your money where your mouth is. The people are the ones who have gotten you there. The ratings and the attention of the people is what's gotten you to where you are. And, it's time to take the risk. It's time to put it all out there and be willing to be let go, be willing to face the consequences of speaking the truth because no one else is. And that's true. That's true for any journalist, anyone who calls yourself a journalist. The White House press pool got upset the other day because Faker 46 didn't call on anybody, and the in the Oval Office with Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson called on some of his press. Biden didn't call on any of his. To be fair, he probably didn't even know they were there. But the press was rudely ushered out, which I think is actually a form of poetic justice. However, the press went and lodged a complaint with Circleback Saki, and because of the way they were treated. I'm like, hey, welcome to the club. Yeah, what's it like to be vilified and treated like dirt? Now you know. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for them, but the fact is, these people haven't really, these people haven't really put any skin in the game. They don't take risks. They just parrot what their handlers tell them to do and say, and they're all there for sound bites. That's what they're there for. You've seen that. And then, a lot of these TV anchors, uh, they don't have they don't have the they don't have the good sense God gave them. I mean, they're dumb as a box of rocks. Most of the TV anchors are just models, basically. It's just they're just eye candy, and they're reading off of a teleprompter. Uh, so I just want to see. Vicky has a comment here. Okay. Amazing Polly has put out 2 videos about hospitals who has hospitalists or intensivists, internist or intensivist, who literally make a decision over the ICU. They decide over physicians. I've heard about hospitalists. Okay. Okay, good to know. All right. Yeah, if any of these if any of these top opinion makers break with the narrative and they get fired, their value will skyrocket. Yeah, I mean, Polly said intensivist. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Honor Health absolutely has hospitalists. Okay. I'll tell her that. I'm gonna sign off pretty soon here, but I'm not gonna go deep into what's going on with the audits. I think one of the best sources there's a few people that are putting out really solid content on that who have been knee deep in the content, and one of those is Praying Medic. The other one is Truth Hammer. I think Technofog is doing that as well. Um, the president is putting out some statements. Okay, somebody just said that Richard Barris on War Room is reporting that 60% of all Georgians polled support a full forensic audit. Absolutely, they should. Yeah, Raffensperger. Thank you, Marvin. Raffensperger is just a train wreck. Hospitalist managed care in hospital. They don't know you like your family doctor. Okay. Oh, so the president has written a letter to Governor Abbott. This is going to be good. So Seth Keshel says that Texas is one of the states that needs a full forensic audit. He said all of them do, but he said Florida, Texas. He said Montana needs a big forensic audit. But this is a letter to the Governor Abbott. President Trump just wrote or published. Dear Governor Abbott, despite my big win in Texas, I hear Texans want an election audit. Uh, you know your fellow Texans have big questions about the November 2020 election. Bills to audit elections in your great state's House and Senate were considered during Texas's second special session. Instead, the legislature passed a watered-down amendment that doesn't even apply to the 2020 presidential election. The short amendment doesn't answer the questions Texans have about the last election. Texans demand a real audit to completely address their concerns. We need HB 16, which was just filed in the third special session. He's putting Abbott on notice, guys. Um, third special session. This legislation specifically addresses the 2020 presidential election and enables audits for future elections. The bill creates a process for candidates and party chairs to initiate an audit and uses the same language as SB 97, which already passed the Texas State Senate, but did not have enough time to make it through the House during the second special session. Texas needs to act now. Your third special session is the perfect and maybe last opportunity to pass this audit bill. Time is running out. Paper ballots in your state are only kept for 22 months after the election. Your citizens don't trust the election system and they want your leadership on this issue, which is the number one thing they care about. It is their most important issue, one that will affect 2022 and 2024. Governor Abbott, we need a forensic audit of the 2020 election added to the call. We're quickly running out of time, and it must be done this week. Texans know voting fraud occurred in some of their counties. Let's get to the bottom of the 2020 presidential election scam. I don't know if you guys have noticed that President Trump is calling out. He's going after Republicans now. Um, he's not even bothering with the Democrats. He's showing. Um, he's showing the he's showing the true colors of the Republicans. He's not wasting time on the Democrats. He is not he's not holding back. He's calling every single one of them out. This morning on the John Fredericks radio show, he called out Lindsey Graham and Mike Lee. He's not holding back. What he's doing is he's restructuring the Republican Party, and everybody with even an ounce of sense knows that if he doesn't, if first of all, an endorsement from him is gold. Uh, a criticism by him, a direct criticism, is kryptonite. I mean, it's their political death knell, and he's not wasting time. He's not holding back on any of these people anymore, rightfully so. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how things go. I mean, like he's giving details now. Like he was talking about how he endorsed Brian Kemp at the recommendation of David Perdue, and how Brian Kemp turned out to be just a complete traitor. I mean, he's just not holding back at all. So I would really pay attention to who he calls out, who he talks about. I know that it is absolutely maddening and frustrating that we haven't gotten to where we want to be yet. I think that we need to trust the timing on this. There are things that are being revealed in drips. Some things are being revealed more quickly. We want everything to be wrapped up, really fast. Like an episode of Law and Order. That's not going to happen. But just keep your ears open and pay attention to what he's talking about. He has a rally in Georgia this Saturday. So he's not going to hold back. I can tell you that right now, especially after what's going on with the audit results in Arizona dropping tomorrow. Now, one of the reasons some people may be wondering, okay, why are we Why are we looking at states like Texas and Florida? Those are red states. One of the reasons that we're looking at them is, and the same, and we're looking at it, we're looking at data in Virginia, and we can see what happened. So the Democrats are very sneaky, and one of the things that they're doing is they're manipulating the vote. They're manipulating the vote enough that it doesn't. They're like they're sneaking in enough numbers that it looks like the state is going blue, um, but they're not taking it outright. And so when they make their move, they're very patient. And so when they make their move to really steal it, then it's like no big deal because then they can look back on the trends and they can say, well, this county was going blue anyway. This, like they did in Tarrant County in Texas, right? They're just going to say, well, the trend was blue. Like all these people moved out of California and they voted blue, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they're doing. Now, Seth Keshel's analysis shows that in spite of all the people moving from different places, that's not really having an influence. It's the voter fraud that's having an influence on the numbers. Because if you think about it, it's mostly conservatives that have left California. The idea that they're going to get to Texas or Florida or North Carolina and vote blue and destroy a new state, I think that's a common uh, assumption that people have. Based on Seth's data, he doesn't actually think that's the case. And some of the places that we think are being overrun by Democrats from other states, he said their populations aren't really changing that much. So that's just something to think about. But the fact that um, the fact that that they're saying we need these forensic audits, that's why they're saying this, because we have to nip this in the bud. Because if they get Florida or Texas, um, then our country really there's like no hope. It's done. It's completely finished. Now I know some of you think that there's no hope now. That's not the case. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay. Now I want to read the comments here, and somebody's saying, why did Trump endorse Abbott? Yeah, so sometimes when it comes to things like that, he actually talked about this on John Fredericks this morning. He said, basically, he said, sometimes it's better to go with the devil you know than the devil you don't. And those are my words, not his. But the whole point is, you know, in most cases, a bad Republican is worse than is better than a Democrat than a Democrat. Now he did say, in some places, he's like, I almost want to endorse the Democrat, because this candidate is so bad, and so he's really, yeah, he's really not holding back at all on these rhinos, on these fake Republicans who have just been stealing your money and just taking you for a ride. He actually, John Fredericks put Kevin McCarthy on blast this morning because Kevin McCarthy is funding, I think, 4 of the rhinos that President Trump is trying to get rid of. And so President Trump, when John Fredericks brought that up, President Trump said, "Yeah, I saw that. I heard that." He said, "I'll take care of it. I'll have a conversation with Kevin McCarthy." It was very interesting. He was like, he if you know President Trump and you're listening to him and he says that, you're thinking, oh, I would not want to be Kevin McCarthy right now because he done chose wrong. And that's the situation right now. I have a feeling that Kevin McCarthy might be putting his phone straight to voicemail for the next couple of days because President Trump is not happy about that. So we'll see what happens. Uh, so just something to think about. Um, yeah. Diane, I agree they need to look at North Carolina. Now, last thing before I go, I wanted to tell you guys we were talking about buying the nasal spray budesonide yesterday. I went to a couple of stores and I found it um, at CVS. They have a store brand. The price has been pretty jacked up on that. It was like $21. But again, if you're building your COVID kit, I would go ahead and get that. Okay. I did find it cheaper on Amazon. If you search budesonide nasal spray, you'll find it. Not every store carries it, even in a generic. So there's lots of nasal sprays, but when you get to the store, make sure that it says budesonide right there on the front, right under the name of the product. Um, that is what is recommended. Okay. Uh, yeah. Okay. So last check at the comments here. I hope everybody has enjoyed the show. Uh, keep your eyes out for my notifications. I'm not sure about whether I'm going to go live the next few days. I'll keep an eye out on what's going on with the forensic audit results. Please make sure you're following this channel, Mary Grace Media. Please like the show. Please go and follow the channel on Facebook and Cloud Hub, and please on YouTube hit the thumbs up, hit the bell. Or first of all, subscribe to the channel. If the button is red, you haven't subscribed, so hit it because we're trying to get to 2,000, and then hit the bell so you don't miss a show. And as most of you know by now, I'm having some work done in I'm having some work done um, in the house, and so that's why I haven't been going on in the evenings. So I will just keep an eye out on what's going on this weekend. I should be back on Monday. Just keep an eye on my notifications, okay? Somebody is asking on YouTube about the COVID kit. Can somebody reply to them? I talked a lot about that yesterday on my show, so you might need to go and watch the replay. A lot of people put good information in the comments. Okay, so everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this. If you didn't watch yesterday's show, please go back and watch it and please share it because there was a lot of valuable information in that show. And we want to make sure that people get that information. It could actually save a life. And so please take it seriously. Uh, okay, so let's keep Matt and Shannon in Arizona in your prayers so that they can. We want to pray that Shannon gets in to see her husband today, and that he gets the treatment that he needs, and that he is holding on to life, and that Shannon would be strong and courageous, and that her husband would be strong and courageous, and that he would have hope, and that he would just continue to hang on. Um, that is our prayer, and that he come home very soon, fully recovered. Have a great day, everybody, and I will be back soon. Take care.